And we've already spoken of the importance of having a good baseline, because if we don't have good baseline information, it's kind of hard to decipher whether a particular statistic that we're observing is a good number or a bad number, because we don't have anything to compare it with. Well, the great news is we've got some excellent tools that we can use with our Cisco gear to get us good baseline information. How is the network performing during the good times? We could use SNMP. Let's talk about SNMP for a moment. SNMP, that stands for Simple Network Management Protocol. And if I've got an SNMP server and I've got devices, routers, switches, servers that are managed via SNMP, what I could do as a server is I could send an SNMP query to retrieve information, specific information that lives in, there's a database inside that managed device called a MIB, a Management Information Base. I could query that MIB to say, give me information about the temperature of a device, for example. So in one way, SNMP will allow us to pull information from a managed device. In addition to that, this managed device can also be enabled with traps, SNMP traps, where it's watching for certain events to occur. Maybe if a bandwidth threshold is exceeded, ding, 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 that's going to set off a trap, and that's going to send a notification to our SNMP server. So SNMP can really go two ways. We could query the information, we could pull it from the managed device, or the managed device could proactively push the information to the SNMP server. One of my favorite ways of getting baseline information these days is to use NetFlow. NetFlow is going to give us information about individual flows, individual unidirectional streams in our network. And you can do a lot just at the Cisco iOS command prompt with NetFlow, but to really enhance things, there are many companies out there that make NetFlow collectors. This is going to run on an external machine, and your routers can all send their data to these NetFlow collectors, and they can generate these beautiful graphs of your network traffic. You can see the exact path that a packet is taking through the network. You can measure things like the latency, the delay, or that is the latency. You can measure packet drops. You can measure jitter. There's a variety of things you can measure. It's great. It gives you great visibility into what's happening in your network. And also IPSLA. IPSLA will allow us to test the waters of our network. What we can do with IPSLA is synthetically create a packet that might look like a voice packet and behave like a voice packet and maybe be marked with the priority of a voice packet. We could send it out on the network and see how the network treats it. Did it get beat up? We could have an SLA responder at the other end that will talk with our router and let us know what kind of delay was experienced, what sorts of drops were experienced, what kind of jitter was experienced. That's a way for us to measure how the network is treating our traffic right now. And one final comment we'll make in this discussion is about the criticality of communication. Now, we've talked about Cisco's 7-step model, but you've heard the statement that no man is an island. Well, no network engineer is an island either. We need to go through and each of these steps, while in many of these steps, we need to be communicating with others. For example, when we're first defining the problem, let's make sure we really understand. Do we have a meeting of the minds with the person that reported the issue? Let's verify that we really understand what's going on. Maybe we need some clarification. And as we start to gather information, remember, we might not have access to every device in the network. We might need to request information. We might need to escalate the problem to somebody that does have access to this particular switch. Here's escalation. Or we might need to talk with others. We might need to validate our theory. Sometimes, I cannot tell you how many times this has really saved me. I'm facing a troubleshooting issue. If I can just explain it to someone, just communicating it to someone out loud has allowed me to resolve issues I do not know how many times. The other person doesn't even necessarily have to know what you're talking about. I remember one time I was trying to troubleshoot an issue, and I was telling it to my teenage daughter. I said, all right, I know you're not going to understand this, but listen to me, like nod occasionally like you're understanding. And just by verbalizing that to her, I was able to resolve the issue pretty quickly after that. Pretty amazing. When we're proposing a hypothesis and we're about to implement our proposed hypothesis, we might want to communicate what we're about to do. Remember the change notification? That's a type of communication. And remember, if we do resolve an issue, let's confirm that. Let's communicate with the person that reported the issue in the first place, and let's confirm that they agree that we have resolved the issue.